Welcome back to this week's Human Design Transit Report. Today is Monday, May 22nd. And the transit that we're in right now, I talked about in the special transit report that I released last Thursday. So go and check that one out if you want to see what's happening right now, because the new transit starts on Saturday, the 27th. And that's what we're going to focus on today. Okay, let's go ahead and dive in. So we have a big shift that is happening this week. We've been journeying through the knowing circuit and through the individual circuitry more generally. And today we are switching into the logic circuit or the pattern circuit in quantum human design. So this is a pretty big change. It's a very different energy. It's left brain energy. It is logical and analytical and strategic and linear and a focal point. Tends to be very kind of focused. And in fact, one of the gates is called focus. So it's a pretty big contrast to what we had with individual circuitry, which was very out of the box, very leading edge, not at all analytical or logical, highly intuitive. And so now we're coming into energies that have a certain quality that's more familiar, that we know from the broader culture, because the broader culture does prefer and validate left brain energy and left brain ways of knowing. And my experience is that everybody has been trained into left brain ways of knowing, just because this is how our school system works and how our culture works, even if they don't have it defined in their charts, which is interesting. So we're going to get to explore what that's like today. So the two energies that are highlighted in this transit, we've got the Earth and the gate 9, which is on the sacral center, and we have the Sun in the gate 16, which is on the throat center. There's a kind of interesting juxtaposition between these two gates. It's somewhat similar to what we had in the last transit, where we had the 3420 defined. The 9 is about focus. Okay, it's about our ability to tune in to what is most important for us to pay attention to, right? So it's simultaneously asks us to kind of step back and look at the big picture, which its mate, the 52, really does. But then it really says, okay, what are we going to focus on? What are we going to focus on? So in order to do that, you have to have a little bit of a pause going on, right? You have to slow down a little bit. Whereas the 16 is known as the ready, fire, aim gate, right? It's like, let's go. So let's dive in to the gate 9 a little bit more first. So the 9, like I said, it's called focus in traditional human design and convergence in quantum human design. And basically, this is this energy of, convergence is when things come together, right? And focus is this ability to really dial in. And as predators, we have eyes on one side of our face, right? And all predators have the eyes on one side of their face, whereas prey animal tend to have it on their side. Like if you just think about cows and deer and antelope and rabbits and things like that, whereas hawks and eagles and dogs and wolves and people have them on one side, right? And that gives us this ability to focus. It gives us the ability to focus deep and go far in terms of our vision, right? And I read something that said eagles can see like a mile away, like they're up in this like a mile. That's a long way. Like they can see prey on the ground a mile away. It's pretty wild, right? I can't do that. I don't know if you can do that, but I can't do that. But we do have this ability to see a long way and to really focus. And it's highly beneficial skill to have, right? If you're working on a project, you need to be able to discern what is the thing to be focusing on, right? And to be able to also transition and switch your focus when the time is right. Like I'm finishing up the second draft of my book. It's going to be out to my editor for the last big run through very soon. And it's taken an incredible amount of focus for me to be able to do this. And also my ability to go, okay, I've worked enough on this piece. Now I'm going to move my focus, like I was working on pillar 7 of feminine sovereignty. Okay, I worked on that enough. Now I'm going to move my focus over to pillar 8 and I'm going to dive into that. And then I have to be able to discern, okay, I've focused on that enough. I've got it to a point where I can now turn turn my attention to something else, right? I can focus on something else. So that ability to know what to focus on, right? And also to know when to change it is highly beneficial, especially for any creator, right? And if you're creating anything of any size or any length, you need to have that ability, because there are so many different things that you could focus on, right? So many different things. And you need to be able to discern, is this the thing I should be focusing on right now? Because sometimes, we kind of get hoodwinked by our own preferences into focusing on something, but it may not actually be the thing that we need to be focusing on right now. So while the earth is lighting this up, it's basically saying, hey, you know what? Really ground yourself in the ability to be discerning. And once you have discerned, okay, this is where I should focus, to go for it, go deep. Like I was just talking about that ability to see far away. Well, it's kind of like if you're seeing, like with my book, my ability to see into the book and where it's going and how are the pieces going to add up. It's that same kind of skill, if you will, to be able to focus, to stay focused, and to keep moving into the stages that you need as whatever it is you're doing is unfolding. Okay, so that's what the earth is saying. It's saying, okay, know where to focus, be discerning, take the time to figure that out, and then go. And then the 16, which is what the sun is lighting up, is known as talent or skills in traditional human design. It's part of the channel of talent in traditional human design, or Zest, that it's been renamed in quantum human design. And I really think of this as the kind of the Nike, just do it, just go for it. The ready, fire, aim gate, right? It's the let's not be worried about the details. Let's not be concerned about all the things that we need to know. Let's just go for it, because we're also going to discover and learn as we go for it. So we don't necessarily have to know everything before we engage. And it's funny because it's the first line of the 16, and the first line in the profiles is the investigator, which is the one that always wants to go deep and doesn't want to jump. It doesn't want to go on to the next thing until they are really feel they've gotten to know whatever it is that they need to know about that particular thing, right? So it's an interesting kind of creative tension that's just going on in that 16-1, which is where the sun is. But also the mate of the 16 is the 48, which is the gate of wisdom, which is on the spleen center. And the 48 is an awesome energy for research, for learning, for digesting what you learn, and being able to understand your life experience, right? And through that process, being able to gain wisdom. But part of the fear of that 48 is not knowing enough. So like that first line, it can also be like, I don't really want to move forward. I don't feel like I know enough yet. I need to keep researching. I need to read another book. I need to take another program. We do that, right? So the 16 is great because it's just kind of like, come on. Don't worry about it. Like, stop that already. You've already researched enough. You already know enough. Let's just go for it. And so the 9 is going to be like, okay, let's like pause enough to make sure that we focus. But once you know what focus is right for you right now, that 16 is going to be like, okay, we're going to go for it. We're going to go for it. So this is a great time for you to be thinking about what are the things that you kind of been holding yourself back on, that you're like, I really want to do that, but I for whatever reason, I feel like I don't know enough, or it felt scary, or it felt too big. I got overwhelmed by it. What are all those things that we have running around in our minds that keep us from kind of moving forward with something that we want to do? And the 16 is just going to like light a fire under your butt and say, go for it. Go for it. Go for it. So, the challenge is if you already have a tendency to jump for things, you are going to want to pay extra attention to that, because you don't want to do it even more. Like, it's not necessarily going to be beneficial for you. But for a lot of us, we have a tendency either to procrastinate, put things off, have different priorities. And so that 9's going to help you sort through and go, okay, where do we really need to focus? Once you've got that, you can just go for it. And I also want to remind you, if you haven't heard about this already, that I am doing a special live session inside of the Becoming Sovereign community that's happening on Thursday, the 24th, and it's at noon Pacific time. So check out what time zone that is, wherever you are. And it's an Ask Me Anything session. It's a follow-up on the always popular chartathon that I did last month when I speed read through charts. And, I can only talk so much about charts, and I don't spend a lot of time on an individual chart. And I know a lot of you have questions. You're like, but what about this thing? Or what about that? Or I kind of got all of this, but this is such a thing, I haven't figured that out yet. Or it keeps running me the wrong way. Whatever it is. So all you need to do is go into the community, and if you haven't joined the community yet, it is free to join. So you just go in and request to join, and we will let you in. And then go to the upcoming events, which is over on the left-hand menu. Just go in there. You'll find the event. Please do RSVP so I know that you're coming. And if you want to ask a question, do post your chart in the comments of that event page. Okay, that's where to put it. If you can't make it live and you want to ask a question, you can put your question along with your chart inside of the comments in that event page, and I will do my best to get to it. I'm going to prioritize the people who are there live because that just seems fair. They're there live, but there's usually an opportunity to be able to answer questions and kind of dig into that. Okay, so this will be a really fun and informative event like a chartathon, but with a little bit of a different focus where you get to ask more questions, because during chartathons you don't really get to ask questions. Okay, so I hope you will join us for that. I'm really looking forward to it. It's the only live event that we're doing this month because I am finishing up my books. I only have so much bandwidth, but I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be really great. So I hope you'll join us. All right, many blessings, much love. Bye for now.